Great skills again by him. Oh, marvellous goal by Lundgren.
Welcome to the Rangers Journal.
Hello and welcome to the Rangers Journal. I'm going to try and keep a smiley face on, but inside I am raging. Cammy, you said you were feeling the same, but you're also going to kind of keep it a bit happier, a bit lighter, but we'll see how it actually goes when we talk about it for a few minutes. So how are you this evening, mate?
I think inwardly I'm as frustrated as everybody else, but just trying to retain that balance. That it is only the 3rd of August. We have only played one competitive match, so a lot needs to happen. But I'm looking forward to a good chat, chewing the fat about it all, because there's a lot needs to happen across the next 4 weeks.
Ryan, you didn't promise me to keep it happy, actually. I think you were going to quite let loose on it on a couple, which I'm more than happy about because it's probably what I'm feeling as well right now. For me, put my story out, or not my story, my thoughts out. It's same old story, which is what I've titled the pod. Because we start the last 4 or 5 seasons, maybe just the 55 season with the win at Aberdeen. I think it was the only one. We tend to drop points, if not outright lose, like the Kilmarnock game. We get a draw, and I guess it is our fault that we're playing our first home game, first game of the season away from home. But that doesn't. We should be beating all other teams in this league away from home. So for me, it's just another. I don't know, what do you call it? Another one of these feelings of what we're in for this season. If this is how it started. So I'll come to you, Ryan. Let's get the cards on the table and say our opening statements.
Well, Billy, for me, the writing was on the wall from the West. The Saetin game, wasn't particularly great. You know, the West, and I know a lot of people say don't look into friendlies, and I look into friendlies. I look at the product that's coming onto the park. I look at the style of play. I look at the personnel that's coming onto the park, because this is a dress rehearsal. And I don't believe this whole that will be all right on the night that we get. So I basically come onto my bus with an opportunity to enter a ballot for the Dundee United away game. And I asked to be withdrawn from the Dundee United away game ballot, because I'm not giving up my Friday night to go away up to Dundee after working all week to be presented with utter dross, is to put it politely. The writing was on the wall for me for that result. I don't blame the personnel in the park. I don't blame Derek McInnes. I don't blame Jim Gillespie. I'm pointing the finger and I'm looking towards Dan Purdy and I'm looking towards Robbie Thelwell, who for me need to carry the can for this result. They're in charge of recruitment, and it's perfectly obvious we're not giving the manager the people that he needs and is required to win that game of football. We have signed an abundance of centre midfielders for whatever reason, when we knew fine well our weakness lay in the wide areas. We've sold Oliver Adnan. We've let Nadeem Brajami go, who are both wide players. We've had Mikey Moore in his loan spell. And as well as, I think there's another one. And we've just set the manager up for a fall there. And it's simply not good enough. And we need to do everything we possibly can to make sure this does not happen again on Sunday, because the way things are looking at this moment in time, we've got a hard game coming up on Thursday, which we'll take what we can from that result. But Sunday is very important to me, and we need to do all we can to make sure we don't have a repeat show.
Cammy, I'll let you come in with a kind of opening statement as well of where you're feeling. Again, there is a comment up there basically telling me to shut up and stop greeting as the first game of the season, but I can't shake the feel. If it was just a one-off, and we've been starting the season brightly in previous seasons, it's just again like it's happening again, and that's down to whoever it's down to. I mean, Ryan's put the blame squarely at the feet of the recruitment team. I don't think I'll let the manager off with nothing, but we'll come to that later on. But how are you feeling?
I think that Friday night was an opportunity. I think you are the team that's starting the season. You've got an opportunity to put 3 points on the board, enjoy your weekend, regardless of the deficiencies and what we require within the squad and the starting 11 and the squad. We should still have had more than enough to go up to Tannadice and win. But I thought the effort of a lot of them was very half-hearted. There's some players, I think, that are starting to believe their own hype. Manny Fernandes, I'm looking at you. you know, and I think Derek McInnes, I think Andy Halliday is one of the best sort of pundits, ex-players out there. And everything he said at the weekend about what Rangers are lacking was spot on with regard to creativity, the people that want to defend, pace. You know, I mean, it's Ryan's right with regard to player identification. Who's responsible for that? I'm sure we've identified players, but we've not been able to get deals over the line. So that's on those people responsible with regard to that. But I think overall, a lot of people are thinking we just bring in a couple of wingers and we're going to wave a magic wand and everything's going to suddenly, we're going to turn into prime Barcelona. This is a squad that's imbalanced. It lacks pace. We've got 15 centre midfield players that can all do the same thing. You know, I don't understand the strategy. So that's the big frustration for me. I've spoke about it many times. Until you get a strong spine, you're never going to do anything. And as it stands, we still don't have a strong spine with 4 weeks of the window to go. And that should always be the starting point. I'll always reference back to Souness. Souness, identified goalkeeper, centre half. He was in the middle of the park and he obviously had Super Ali up front. But I think until you get a spine, a number 6, I think that Dan Neil's been signed as a number 6. He's no Stephen Davis Mark II on the basis of what I've seen so far. Dragojevic, we're hoping, is going to turn into the new version of Barry Ferguson, but it's putting a hell of a lot of pressure on a kid coming from a foreign country to be that player. I hope he is. And it's somebody in the middle of the park that we are desperately crying out for to be able to control the game. If you can do that, supplement it with quality in the wide areas, create chances. How many chances have we created across the 3 games that we've played? And I think that's the biggest concern for me. Chance creation is non-existent. You're watching the game on Friday night and it's set pieces and even set pieces. We had that 4 or 5 weeks where we scored, I think, with every corner and free kick that we got, and that's died on its arse in the last few months. But I just think there's a lot of areas concerning me at this moment in time. Friday night, it's a wasted opportunity to get 3 points on the board. You get yourself back into the game at 1 each. A good Rangers team that's wanting to go on and win a league title goes on and wins that game. Somebody grabs the game by the scruff of the neck. Somebody shows the balls. We've heard all this talk about leaders and signing 5 players that have been captains at their previous clubs and all that sort of stuff. I am fed up hearing players, managers, staff talking a good game about this, that and the next thing. What you do when you cross the white line and put on that jersey is what matters. The effort on and off the ball that you show. What we've seen so far this season hasn't been that. And I think those are non-negotiables for me. The effort and endeavour and all that sort of stuff. I thought too many players on Friday night half-arsed it. And I think we'll come on to the match ratings, and I think the match ratings pretty much cover it. Because other than Tello Asgard, I don't think anybody got pass marks on Friday night.
Ryan, you've come out swinging at the recruitment team, and I think it's fair. But do you have any kind of sympathy for them for regards to the World Cup? And we're waiting for bigger teams to get deals sorted before we can kind of swoop in and do anything. What's your thoughts on that?
No, I don't, Billy, because their primary objective is to get these deals over the line, and it's, yes, we'd like to think we're going to be going for, players that are featuring at the World Cup, but let's be honest here, a lot of these players that we're signing aren't on the menu that are playing at the World Cup. That we're really looking at players that are on the periphery of squads that are at the World Cup and stuff, like the boy Dow, who looks as if we missed out on him. He wasn't in the Norwegian squad. Celtic have picked up Casper Ho, who I highly rated. Unfortunately, he's went to the other end of the site. He wasn't in the Danish squads that were leading up to, the teams against us and stuff. So it's we've got to be doing our business a little bit smarter and a little bit quicker. And sitting about, I don't understand how John, as much as these guys are responsible for recruitment, they're probably responsible for seeing players out the door as well. How's John Souttar still a Rangers player? Everybody in their granny knows that he's not wanting at Ibrox anymore, so how's he still a Rangers player? He's supposed to be going to Leicester. When's this happening? Nico Raskin is taking his time coming back, which he's entitled to do. But how have we not managed to create? Surely, to goodness, he's got at least half a dozen suitors across Europe looking at him. Why are we not getting this instigated? Why are we not on the phone to agents and people that we know, journalists and all that stuff, getting things moving to get him out the door? What's happened with Conor Barron? What has happened with these guys? As much as these guys are responsible for recruitment, they're also responsible for disposal of players as well. And they for me, three are very, very obvious players who have some sort of value attached to them. And if they're not trying to build deals and they're not got a short list of things, what are they doing, Billy? What are they doing? What are they doing on a daily basis to get these things done? Why is it this whole transfer window closing thing, and we sit here and we speak about it for 6 hours, and clubs across? Why does it take that long to get these things done? We're Glasgow Rangers, for God's sake. Like, we've got a stadium with 50,000 people in it. We play European football. We're competing for trophies every single season. Players should be wanting to come to us every year. So they should be doing better than what they're doing just now. There's guys, the Dal one's a shocker. I think we're going to really live to regret that. I think that's a honker. I think we should have got that done. I think he could have been a really big talisman. And that guy Dal's not a new name to us. We've been speaking about this guy 6 to 12 months now. He's been on the kind of radar. But for whatever reason, at the last minute, we're just letting it slip through the door. How is that happening? And these are the ones that we publicly are aware of. There'll be other ones that are going through. Mikey Moore looks as if he's going to Cologne now. I don't think it would have taken a lot of convincing for him to come back to Ibrox. If he actually sat down, if you managed to make Tottenham happy, would Mikey Moore turn around and say, "No, I don't want to go back to Ibrox"? I don't think that's possible. I think he'd have been more than happy to come back here for another season. So for me, it doesn't look as if they're doing their job right. And you say I'm maybe saying McInnes getting a free pass and stuff like that. Derek's got to pick a team that he believes with the personnel he's got. You don't go and build a house with something with materials you've not got. You look at the materials you've got and you go and build a house with it and you make sure it's viable. If he needs to go and play 4-3-3 because he needs to go play narrow because he doesn't have any wide men, you've got 4 strikers there who are all desperate to impress you. You've got how many abundance of centre midfielders? Go and play 4-3-3 this week. Get your fullbacks up the park and try and win games that way. It might not be your system, it might not be the one you want to go for moving forward, but surely to goodness to be good enough for Friday night Dandies to get a result.
I think I'll put a pin in the McInnes thing because I've got something to say on that. I want to do come to Cammy though on. Sean has made a couple of comments that I was maybe being too kind to the recruitment team. This isn't the first transfer window; they've had 3, and there still doesn't seem to be a particular plan. I'm also, Ryan's right. They are responsible for getting players out the door. I mean, Dal literally said in a press conference he wanted to come to us. How do we miss out on a player that is actively saying he wants to come to us? And he's in our price range.
I think we're obviously trying to sell something. We're obviously trying to sell Nico Raskin, but that then goes back to what Ryan's saying. I think Nico Raskin's transfer, a lot of conversation should have been happening during the World Cup, the period that he's been on leave since the World Cup, so that essentially look at what's happening at Newcastle and Arsenal with Bruno Guimaraes. That's been in the back burner for the last few weeks, and I think you'll probably find that transfer gets done across the next 4 or 5 days. The same sort of situation should be happening with Nico, and then I think that's we essentially need to bring in 15-20 million pound for Nico Raskin to then, because we spent a reasonable amount of money last year, and we're basically suffering for the sort of poor recruitment. And you look at the recruitment in January, Nadiri and Chakwani was the best part of £10 million. Neither player at this moment in time is a nailed-on starter. For me, if you're spending the gutsy £10 million, they have to be nailed-on starting players. So I think Shona had said something about it's been 3 windows and there's not been any strategy. The people that own the football club put people into various roles to do their job, and are these people doing the job to the requirements of what Rangers need? They've got a heck of a lot to do across the next 4 weeks. To be honest with you, I just find it very frustrating that what has been glaringly obvious to all of us who have watched Rangers across the last 6 months, no matter whether the manager is Derek McInnes, Danny Rule, Steven Gerrard, what we needed has not been addressed so far. And that's the thing that concerns me more than anything.
Cammy, I think you've been talking about a number 6 since we started this podcast, so it's not like it's a new thing. Ryan, let me come to you on the McInnes point. We've watched the 2 friendlies. We've seen this game. My criticism is, I guess in the friendlies he's trying out a couple of different formations, so he would change it. But he has to change his starting lineup at half-time. Now, he mentioned that, or you mentioned, but he'll be very aware that we're not creating enough chances from the wide. So his response to that is to not play the striker that can create himself. He said it himself, Chamiti is the only striker he's got that can create his own chances. So he doesn't play him. He plays, Nadiri and Shankland, and they need support. They need players around them. And then we have a midfield that's sitting 40 yards behind them, not dominating things. So I do think there's a lot more, or at least a bit more than what you were suggesting on the starting lineup this time.
Billy, I've said last week in the pod I've got my concerns over the possible chemistry between Chamiti and Shankland. From what I've seen them playing together, I don't see a partnership there. I don't see a Haitley McCoist, a Novo Purzo partnership where the 2 guys complement each other. I see 2 guys that are very much independent in their own work and not seem to have found anything like a common ground they can kind of work in. And I think the Chamiti one, without jumping too far ahead, the Chamiti chance at the end of the game probably epitomises that. There's certainly, and I don't know if maybe Derek has recognised that himself as well. I don't at this moment in time see what Ryan Nadiri's done to get a start as well. His game that he played against West Ham, I feel he's run about like a headless chicken a lot, and it's great that he's got that work rate and stuff like that, but there doesn't seem to be any kind of product there. He's maybe pulled a good save out the goalkeeper. I don't want to jump too far ahead into the actual game itself, but I think it's very kind of difficult to decide what our kind of best 11 is. People were shouting and bawling to get Devlin in the starting 11. Devlin did start. I thought he'd done okay and faded stuff. So we just seem to lack a spark. We don't. For me, I just don't see a talisman. I don't see a guy that you put your hat on and say, like, I trust this guy. He's our match winner. We're looking at Asgard, who blows hot and cold, as we all know. And at this moment in time, he's our form guy. He's the guy that we're actually looking upon to stick a free kick in or score the goal on Friday night and stuff. And I don't want to look at Taylor Asgard over the course of a season and say, I'm relying on you to win us trophies, because I don't think he's got it in him at this moment in time.
Mm-hmm. Cammy, has the manager made a bit of a rod for his own back by making Shankland the captain? Because even if he says he'll pick the best team for the match, you've still got that, well, he's my captain, I kind of have to have him in the starting lineup, even if that's just a subconscious thing. You see, you're kind of agreeing with me, but I was thinking it when I was driving to work this morning, like, we kind of have to play Shankland now because he's captain. If he doesn't do well with Chamiti, or they can't play with Chamiti, then you can't have a captain not be able to play with your best striker.
See, I didn't disagree with the appointment, Lorne. I'm going to sort of contradict myself here, but I didn't disagree with Lorne Shankland as the choice of captain. But I think that tells you that there wasn't an abundance of other options. I mean, what did we try? Dujon Sterling in one of the friendlies. I think Ben Godfrey in one of the friendlies. There was Ross McCrory probably in one of the friendlies, so on and so forth. I'd love to know who gets the armband when Shankland isn't on the park, because as much as we can talk about we're bringing in leaders and all that sort of situation. For me, I still think that you've created a rod for your own back. Shankland, to me, just on performance, looks as though he might take I don't know if he's a slow starter in seasons, but he doesn't look up to speed, and I'm not saying physically. He's always been that's always been a worry about Lauren Shanklin for me. But yeah, he has. But he's made his decision, and I agree with Ryan there. I think the chemistry between Shanklin and Chermiti, I think there's a lot to work on there. They don't look, on the basis of what I've seen so far, as it's going to be McCoist and Haitley back in those days. But there's obviously time for that to change. But he has made a Lauren Shanklin pretty much has to start when he's available.
Ryan, I mean, there is time. It's just the beginning of the front partnership, whoever we see it being on a regular basis. And as I say, Shanklin probably has to start more games than not. And their best striker, I think, is still Chermiti. And again, his decision making, you know, with the chance, as you were mentioning, towards the end of the game when they could have rolled it to Shanklin, I think. Is that something you're maybe concerned about them? That maybe both of them are too want to be the guy that scores the goal?
Maybe, Billy. I mean, I'm all for my strikers shooting and scoring goals. You know, ultimately, as the phrase goes,
there was no chance of him scoring that.
I know, and that's maybe where he needs to develop his game. He's still a relatively young guy as well. Remember, although he's an absolute man mountain, you know, deep down inside, he's still a young boy and a young player who hasn't got a lot of first team experience under his belt. And I dare say he's probably taking the manager's seat in his collar for that chance. He certainly would have taken it from Lauren Shanklin when he was back into the dressing room, because even if Shanklin had just dummied it, Finlay Curtis is there for a tap in. Mm-hmm. So this result on Friday isn't a doomsday disaster, right? Better Rangers teams have dropped points in the first couple of games in the season there, and still went on. And you know, we were talking about these sort of statistics last season that I think Souness had drawn the first 5 games or something, but still went on. So this isn't a disaster situation. But what we need to see is things getting better. You know, we need to see. We know the reason why it's not happening, because Derek's not got the right personnel in the building just now. We're now at Monday afternoon at 5:30 nearly, and we've still not made courses to moves tonight. The squad are flying out probably tomorrow to go out for the game, and things still aren't moving there. So we need to get these, because these games are going to come thick and fast, all these qualification games. These guys need to be making moves in the background to get the recruitment done and get these guys to building. I don't care if we need to take a fine off FPP or whatever it's called. I don't really care. Just get these guys in the building and give the manager the tools that he needs to win this bloody league. Right, and I think there's one there, somebody's talking about Nathan Patterson. Nathan Patterson, I think, would be a good signing to compete at right back. I don't see Ross McCrory as right back. I don't trust Dusan Sterling's fitness. Do you know? And if we can't get Nathan Patterson, we go and chat with Dora at Liverpool and ask about Calvin Ramsey's availability for a season as well. So there's options there, but we need these guys to be on the phone, like telephone terrace, and get things bloody done. Do not take no for an answer. If they won't give you a number, phone them back in half an hour and ask them if they've found a number yet, and just make these things happen for Rangers. That guy, what's his name? Ross, is it Nottingham Forest, Newcastle now? What was his name again? The one that nobody liked, the head of recruitment.
Ross Wilson.
Yes. Ross Wilson, sorry.
Yes, Ross
I thought you were talking about a player, Ryan, sorry.
Aye, and as much as folks said that, you know, as far as we were said, didn't we have a great reputation for us? Anyone who said that they worked at the training centre, anyone who's working around about Ibrox, said that guy was never off the phone. He was constantly on the phone, day in, day out, speaking to people. These guys that are there just now need to be doing exactly the same thing to make things happen for us.
The maybe the comment you were talking about there, Ryan, but it wasn't quite as what I thought you were going to say. Would you take Scott McKenna over Nathan Patterson?
No, see if we're going to take Scott McKenna as well, just on to John Suter. That's been perfectly honest with you. I don't see a player, and I was at the World Cup. I was at Miami when Scott McKenna turned into a 6'5" baby and lost the ball. Just honking. You know, if Scott McKenna was ever going to be a Rangers player, he'd have been a Rangers player years ago. We'd be as well holding on to John Suter if we're going to be looking at guys like that. I think they're talking a silly number as well. I think they're talking upwards of 5 million, 6 million quid for him as well. Right. We can do far better than that.
See on the Nathan Patterson, I just touching on what I was talking about earlier on, we need loads of things, but the right back nobody's really spoke about the fact that James Tavernier was a huge part of the Rangers side. James Tavernier was on the downward spiral across the last 2 years. but he was one that still came up with moments, still came up with crosses. We've still not replaced James Tavernier on at right back for me. Neither Sterling or McCrory should be the first choice right back. Nathan Patterson is the sort of profile, athleticism, ability when he's fit to get up and down, pace, recovery, all that sort of stuff. Qualities that I think are sadly lacking within this Rangers squad at the moment. So I'm not saying Nathan Patterson. I think he's been linked with us, but I know for a fact that there's been no interest from Rangers on that one. But somebody that's got legs, somebody that can get up and down. See, when you're not playing with wingers, I think the onus is then on your right back and your left back to then be bombing on and providing the width. So I think Patterson, no for me, but somebody along those lines. I'm not advocating Nathan Patterson, but somebody like him that is able to get up and down, I think, is a must for that right-hand side.
I mean, we've been needing to replace Tavernier for a few seasons, Cammy. I don't know if that's the point you were getting at. It's not just that he's away this season,
but again, Billy, that goes back to years and years and years of poor recruitment. And this is where we have a mismatch of players, multiple managers, changes of approach and all that sort of stuff. I mean, I think I saw Doug making mention about strategies and different strategies and changes of manager. And should there not be a club philosophy in the way that Rangers want to play? And the manager, it's like a plug and play. Look at Brighton. Look at Motherwell, closer to home. They're operating on like no budget. I watched Motherwell yesterday and they lost 3 or 4 of their best players. And you would not have known it to watch that game yesterday because they just play the exact same way.
And they lost a manager.
But we're changing approach from manager to manager to manager. Yeah, the head of, I don't know if that's Jim Gillespie, Stig Ingerbjorneby. I don't know whose responsibility that is, but what is Rangers' identity? I know we always go on about Rangers is about winning, but how are we, when Rangers cross the white line, how do we play? I don't know.
I hope it comes from Derek McInnes, to be honest, Cammy, because he fits the bill. I mean, he looks the part for me, but I think he's just made a cut. I mean, again, we've still got 4 weeks left of the transfer window. He quite easily could get someone, or more than someone, a good couple of players in that changes the whole dynamic of what we're looking at. With the game in mind, Ryan, we will bring up, because Mitch and Doug have done the match stats for us, or the match ratings. And you mentioned earlier on, Ryan, that you wouldn't want to rely on Asgard every week, but it was, for me, by far our best player on the night for at least 15-20 minutes. And I thought it was a fantastic finish for his goal. So only a rating of 7, which I guess shows he wasn't playing particularly well the whole game. But all the rest of the players were poor.
Really? I guess maybe a wee bit harsh on the goalkeeper. I thought the goalkeeper was quite good. I thought he had a good game. He's obviously had that, I don't know if you want to call it a save or a miss in the last few minutes of the game as well, but my heart was in my mouth when I seen when that boy was going through in the last couple of minutes, but he's managed to stand up tall and save it. I think quite often with the goalkeeper, he was on the edge of the box, he was coming for crosses and he was helping his defence, and the amount of times I turned around to my pal and said, Jack Buckley wouldn't have been there, Jack Buckley wouldn't have been there, Jack Buckley wouldn't have been there. I think that the big man's, he's done okay in that respect. I think you're being generous to Romans there. I think Romans has kind of went in himself. Yep. I think he's, for whatever reason, I don't know if it's tactical, if it's instructions, but he just doesn't seem to be wanting to be getting forward as much as what he was previously. And I don't know if that's on manager instructions or whatever, but he seems to have regressed a little bit. Kasama, don't know what to do with him. There's all the talent there, and I'm ready to go up and rip his face off and find Rabin Matondo underneath it. I just can't get my head around it. I can't get my head around what the boy's trying to do. And he's now at the stage where you probably need to take him out of the team again. And I said the same thing about Finlay Curtis last week, that protect him, and he's obviously not had a good couple of games of pre-season. You need to take him out of the team and protect him. You need to see it with Gassama, and more or less actually probably to protect Gassama's value, because we'll be trying to sell him on for a few quid if the opportunity comes, and the more you play it, the more he's actually probably going down in value, and we'll end up getting heat off him. He'll end up turning into body a Danilo that you need to try and beg people to take him off your hands. So it doesn't read for good there. As I say, I agree with the ratings there. I think that's pretty fair. think Shankland will probably admit that wasn't his best game either, but I don't think he had the support around him. But I'd have given the goalie a 7 if you were asking me to change anything there.
Yeah, I mean, the keeper, I thought decent. Again, not, there's no like, he wasn't like a 90 minutes attrition or anything like that. Romans to me looks like either he's injured or he's, you say, Ryan, could be tactical, but also just looks like he hasn't had a very good pre-season. I think, but I was expecting a lot more for him. I mean, Fernandez, his decision making going to try and get that ball, wrong for me, and then also too lackadaisical trying to get back. That seems to be something that needs to be heavily coached out of him. Godfrey, sorry to go through all these, Cammy, when you're going to come in. Godfrey injured, so we're going to need to buy another centre half. That's great. Sterling, again, he's not for me good enough to replace Tav. Devlin and Diamandi just don't work for me. I don't think either of them should be playing together. I don't even think it's one or the other. I don't even know what Diamandi really does. And progressing the game to in a forward position. As I've mentioned already, Asgard I thought had a decent game. Nadiri and Gassama and Shankland all deserve that score. But Cammy, I'll let you come in and make a comment on the team as a whole.
I think that's fair. I mean, I think I said before we went live, I thought it looked like a team that hadn't played a lot. It was I've used this expression a few times, it was a very undercooked performance. We looked as though we hadn't played a lot of competitive football. No saying that Dundee United have played 4 or 5 games ahead of us with the Premier Sports, and I think that does allow them the opportunity to get into it. But I think we looked like a team that's just played 2 friendlies, a couple of bounce games behind closed doors, and that was and we're going to have this schedule of midweek Sunday for the next few weeks. So they might play themselves into, but I think a lot of players looked as though they may be better they might actually be better for the game. All the markings are completely accurate. Lawrence Shankland isn't a creator. Lawrence Shankland's a goal scorer. I think he only had one cup. There was the cutback, I think, Nadiri, and he had a wee sort of flick at the front post. That was the only sniff that Shankland had all day. Nadiri, you're asking a guy to play on the sort of right wing because you've got no other options there. Finlay Curtis, I've said on podcasts, I don't want him to pin him to the, like, he's going to be the next, but he's a goal threat. He always wants to shoot. And I think in a Rangers team that's lacking goals, I think certainly Finlay Curtis should be starting for me over Gassama as it stands at this moment in time. I think Gassama's an impact player off the bench. I've always believed that. But yeah, but we came away with 1 point. We just have to move forward to Thursday and try to. Hopefully we get a bit of movement across the next couple of days to make the manager's pre-match press conference a bit easier, because he's just to answer that last question, do we expect Raskin to play? I think he's only just reported back today, so no, I don't think that's like a lot of the players at the World Cup I've seen down south, Bruno Fernandes and guys like that have just reported today. Nico's only reported today, so I'll be surprised if Nico Raskin plays for Rangers again. I've been quite consistent on that, and I hope sooner rather than later the deal gets done and we can then get the bodies in the door that we need.
Ryan, where do you think this disconnect comes from? Derek McInnes mentioning quite a few times now, we hope to get another player in the door before such and such, hope to get 2 players in before the game on Friday there, and we're still now sitting on Monday and that second player hasn't arrived yet. Do you think this is the recruitment team again failing to get these deals done? Are they feeding them wrong information, or is he just trying to kind of put a good story or a good face out there?
I don't think Derek would deliberately tell the Rangers fans lies, Billy. I don't think he would come out and try and gaslight us or hoodwink us, unlike kind of previous managers. Russell Martin would come out and do things a bit untoward. But I think he's just going with the information he's been given from up above. You probably find the deals are pretty close. You might just find that these guys just aren't reading as well as, I wouldn't consider a deal close until such time as a guy's on a flight and he's got a medical booked. That's there. But, a lot can happen in that, because guys have came to Rangers before and failed medicals and stuff and get asked to move on again. Guys have came to Rangers before and failed medicals and still get signed. So I wouldn't kind of be starting to kind of say that, and he's probably just trying to calm our frustrations as much as he's got the frustrations himself, because he's probably going to these guys every day and saying, where are these people I've asked you for? Where's my left winger? Where's my right winger? Where's my reserve left back? My left back's carrying a knock. I need another left back so I can give him a bit of time off. So they're probably just either lying to him and then he's just passing on false information. I don't know. I really don't know. These guys may be getting told that things are happening there, and it turns out they're just using us as leverage to get better deals elsewhere as well. That can happen. So it's just very, very frustrating at this moment in time. I think we are on the cusp of something that we've signed a lot of really good players and a lot of really good characters. I think that the recruitment so far has been okay. But it's basically what we've done is we've created the sponge of the cake. Now we need to get the icing on it. So we need to just push forward. But the clock is ticking. Big European game on Thursday. We drop points to Hibs on Sunday at home. Things are going to start getting very, very spicy very quickly, because the Rangers fans' patience is very much on a knife edge just now. It's threadbare, and there's too much stuff that's happening in the past just now. And it's at some point the fans will turn on Kavanagh, and I know that's rubbish to say, but if things don't go wrong, I don't think the fans will turn on McInnes. I think the fans will very much appreciate Derek and his honesty and everything that he stands for and his love of the club. I think the fingers will start getting pointed elsewhere next time round.
Cammy, one thing that does kind of concern me, and it's maybe just my lack of knowledge of some of the players we've been linked to, but there's no real... Ryan's talking about icing on a cake. There's no cherry to put on top of that cake, certainly not in a kind of big... grand, what do you call it? Not grand slam, but you know what I mean? Grandstand signing for this summer. Are we maybe? Are we deluding ourselves with that?
I think we're all I think the marquee signing is going back to the era of David Murray. David Murray used to talk about changing the menu every summer, and I hate to quote David Murray on anything, but Ryan's talking about the sponge. I'm wanting the sponge, the cherry, and the sparkler in the next 4 weeks. It's that's the reality of the situation. I'm sure there's very little has fed. I'm surprised that Rangers haven't fed out a link or two to their WhatsApp groups to sort of lessen the noise across the last 2 or 3 days. It's been very, very quiet. Chris Jack's not been given any information, which then obviously allows other people to speak. But I think I have no issue with it being quiet. But if I was confident that we were then going to announce a signing tomorrow and Thursday, and if by the time we speak next Monday we've signed 3 players, it's the lack of confidence in the people that are doing the deals. And that's just based on what has happened so far. That's the worry for me.
It's what happened last season as well, Cam, because these guys were in position last season when it all went there. I mean, truth be told, they're probably very lucky to still be in a job, and they've been given another crack at the whip here, and by all accounts so far, it doesn't look as if they're performing the way they should be performing. So hope I'm wrong, and hope that I'll be eating humble pie come December time, where we've had a really good first half of the season. But at this moment in time, these guys haven't seemed to be doing any better than what they did last season.
The one thing for me also, just quickly, is they said, I think Derek McInnes, it had been fed out that we're looking for 2 right wingers, and we're looking for, I think, 2 defenders, which would obviously be probably an centre half and somebody to backfill Romans. Both wings, Gassama and Curtis, is not enough on the left-hand side for the season. I'm sorry, but both wings need to see upgrades. I don't think we'll play 2 wingers in every single game. I think there'll be times where he plays a wide midfield player on the right or a wide midfield player on the left, and it's not unusual. Walter Smith done it, Dick Advocaat done it, but they were operating with far higher quality of players and game changers, so you could get away with that. But it's I think we just have to trust that there is plenty going on in the background.
Ryan, we'll turn our attention in the last couple of minutes or so to the European campaign that starts for us this week. I'm going to try to pronounce the name Jagiellonia. And Poland, we're away first in that game. I'm not going to claim to know a lot about them. I just know if I haven't heard their name before, that means Rangers should win it. But that's just a bias based on my lack of knowledge of Polish football. But also, we're drawn today. If we do get through this round, Larn or Iberia to beat Tbilisi. Now, obviously, for the Northern Irish players, the Larn game is going to be a lot more enticing for them to get to. But do you know anything about any of these teams?
Just from watching European competition over the last few seasons, Billy, Jagiella, I think is the way you pronounce it, but they seem to have managed to keep themselves on at the business end of the Conference League for the last few seasons. So, there'll be players within that with European experience. I think Andrew, who was involved with the podcast, who lives out in Poland, I think he said they've actually lost quite a few players so far over the summer there. So I don't know much about him. It's a potential banana skin. I think what we probably need to go out there is go out there with a very kind of, protective sort of side of things. Like, we don't necessarily need to go out there and win the tie and go guns blazing. There's no away goals to go out there and play for. So let's just go out there and just get a wee feel of how things are going. It's still very early in our season as well. If Rangers were to come away with a 0-0 or a 1 each draw or something like that, I'd be very, very happy. Just get it back to Ibrox, make sure there's no silly suspensions, no silly injuries, anything like that. Just go out there and feel them. The Larn game, if we do draw Larn, they've obviously got to get past Tbilisi, which, Georgian teams obviously be quite difficult to play against. I don't know, can't pretend I know anything about them, but from what I know of Larn, their stadium only holds about 3,000, less than 3,000 people. I don't think that'll be big enough by any matter of means if Rangers are going across to Northern Ireland and playing a game of football. So there's probably a good possibility that'll get moved over to Windsor Park. So I think that'd be quite an exciting thoroughfare if that was there. I think it'd be something that both sets of fans could enjoy. But I think the one that we're looking at here is pretty tricky. So we've just got to go out there and protect ourselves. Be wary of things like Progress Niederkorn and stuff like that has happened in the past, and just be very mindful of these things and go out there and just put in a right good professional performance.
I completely blocked that game out of my mind, mate, because I was thinking of Malmo or even Victoria Zitskov as games that were banana skins for us in Europe in the past. It's the Zitskov's games where we all know that we can't get a penalty from a corner when the ball's not in play, because we were all screaming for it at the front of the Copeland, and then it turns out that the linesman came over and said to the referee, you can't give a penalty if the ball's not been kicked yet. So I remember that one. But Cammy, I mean, I guess if you could wish for a better draw, there probably isn't one. So are you happy enough? Are you confident enough in getting through to the Europa League proper?
I wouldn't say I was confident at all, but that's it's not being negative. It's just it's this early stage of the season. I spoke about being undercooked, and you're playing very, very early in the season. These games are very, very high stakes. I think I saw somebody saying, James Lindsay saying he couldn't care less about Europe. I do get that the league is the priority and domestic success is the priority, but for the financials will require £20 million from the Europa League group stages. So I think it's in Rangers' interest to get through. And I think Derek McInnes and Jim Gillespie and the owners will be making that very, very clear. We have to just get through these two ties. On paper, I think that you couldn't have asked for anything better on paper, but as we always know, it's not played on paper, and it's what we do. Certainly do the job on Thursday night, get it back to Ibrox and finish the tie off. We're going into a wee run here where I think we're going to have four on the bounce at Ibrox. It's an opportunity to, and I think Derek McInnes had said, trying to make Ibrox a fortress again. They want to be too cliched and what have you, but this is an opportunity. You've got probably two European games, a league game and a League Cup game against St Mirren. You've got an opportunity to progress and get yourself off the mark in the league and progress in two cup competitions, and also build a wee bit of feel good, because I think the feel good factor that was there 3 or 4 weeks ago has completely disappeared. within the support. That's how quickly it can change. But I think Thursday night could be tricky. But it's like if we get knocked out with teams like this, then we deserve all the criticism that we get. But the draws have been significantly more kind to us than Hearts, for example, have had across their ties. But we just get to Thursday, no more injuries, no suspensions, and then take us into the league game against Hibs and get back to Ibrox.
Before we kind of finish up with our kind of final thoughts, I will mention our sponsor. The podcast is proudly sponsored by the Bluebells Bar in Puerto del Carmen. Eat, drink, chill and party. Go in there, ask for Kenny, tell him we sent you and he will look after you. You will have a great time. Scotty from the pod's already been out there. I looked after him well. He had a great night. You can't remember it. So come on out and give another Rangers bar, the only Rangers bar in Puerto del Carmen that's also showing all the games as well. So yeah, go and give them your support, guys, if you're out there. Or if you're planning a holiday, why not consider Puerto del Carmen and go into the Bluebells and say hello to them in there. Ryan, yeah, final thoughts really. It was, I guess, good to get a bit of frustration out, maybe portion some blame to one or two people, but where are you now? We've done the pod. How are you feeling about things? Are you a bit more hopeful, or are you still
apprehensive? I'm still apprehensive. Really. I trust Derek McInnes wholeheartedly, and I appreciate the fact that the players are out there and there's Rangers men on the park looking to try and get the very best out of it, but they need support. Things need to get done. You know, the players need to come in. The recruitment has to happen. Or I'm just going to keep asking these questions every single week to why these guys are still employed at the club. And the longer they're still there for, and if something doesn't happen, I'm then going to start looking further up the ladder than asking questions of other people. So I want Rangers to win every single week. I want Rangers to be successful in Europe domestically. And the manager's left a job. The manager's walked away from a right good job to come to us. You know, he's sacrificed a lot. He was in a right good position of comfort at Hearts. Led them on to one of arguably probably their greatest season in how many years? You know, the chances there. He's walked away from the possibility of taking Hearts into the Champions League and European this season to come to us. We need to be backing this guy. You know, he deserves our backing. And if the guys aren't willing to do it, then somebody else needs to come in and give them the backing, because that's what it's going to take. We need to put everything into this season to beat Celtic and win this league. Nothing else matters. Nothing else is important. This has to happen.
Well, thank you, Ryan, for being on with me, mate. Cammy, I'll give you the kind of final closing diatribe.
It's just give Derek McInnes the tools to do the job. That's the thing. I think he ticks a lot of boxes with regard to being a Rangers manager. But you need the quality, and I'm sure the conversations that he had with Jim Gillespie and Andrew Kavanagh, budgets, etc., would have been spoken about. His frustration is obvious, I think, in the last two press conferences. I think if noises don't come out over the next couple of days, I think he'll have probably more to say pre and post match on Thursday night, because he realises how important it is to get off to a good start and build that momentum that I spoke about coming into a run of home matches. But he needs to be, it's not necessarily backed, but just given the quality that's going to make Rangers a team that's going to be competitive right to the end of the season, which has not been the case across far too many years. But my concern when Derek McInnes came in was that he wasn't given all the tools to do the job, but so much was required. He's trying to fix years and years of poor recruitment and change. And I'm pleased from the point of view. Can you imagine if this was that we had dropped points on Friday night and Danny Rule was still the manager? You know, everybody's been depressed across the last few days and frustrated across the. But I think we're in a position where Derek McInnes is going to remain in charge and given the opportunity. I just hope we repeat again. Give him the tools to give him a chance across the next 4 weeks. If we can sign 4 or 5 quality starters that you can hang your hat on, we reconvene on the 3rd of September and we're in a far different position. But Derek McInnes knows that the Rangers manager, the buck stops with him. You need to win games of football, and that has to hopefully start on Thursday night.
Well, Cammy, before the game, we were chatting just personally, and you said, talking about the game, it was crap and undercooked. And I said, we'll get 49 minutes out of that. And there we go, 49 minutes have just gone. Thank you, everyone, for the comments aside. Very busy with the comments this evening. Thank you very much for that. It gives us the talking points to get into, and we can bring these up on the screen for others to see it as well. So thank you very much for that. All I'll say is, Ryan and Cammy, thanks for being on, guys. It's been a really good chat. Every night is Rangers Journal night. We have a full lineup this week, so check our YouTube page for our upcoming pods, and also like and subscribe, and you'll get the notifications when these go live. So catch you later, guys. Have a good week.
Every night is the Rangers Journal night.